Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 10. Can you believe it? Episode 10 of What's Up, Spirit. So, brand steward, love ambassador Sheri Hauser, I'm just going to ask you very quickly, what's up, Spirit?
Good things. Good
Okay.
things. Good things,
Oh,
Lesia, are up.
okay.
And I feel like I am realizing, like, with fine-tune awareness, especially at the VTC board meeting yesterday when we were trying to figure out a date for the AGM,
Yeah.
that I have said yes to so many incredible projects that I see my schedule booked until July.
Wow. 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 So let's pause there for a moment because that takes me back to a couple of episodes ago where cocooning was the word of the day. But before we talk about more of these good things and the schedule of yours that is booked until July and some of the stuff that I want to bring into today's episode, let's just take a moment to land where we are and to remember the land that we are on. And I know you're in a slightly different space than I am, as are our viewers, but I would just like to take a moment to express gratitude, to just steep in reverence and appreciation for the incredible, amazing, beautiful, dynamic lands that we are on. And where I am coming to you from very close to where the Sartlip Nation is, the Wasanich and Sinchothan speaking people. And I know that Sheri, you are coming from somewhere else. So where is it that
It's
you're
true.
coming from?
Right. I'm in a different part of General Victoria on Vancouver Island, the land of the Lekwungen speaking people, known as the Esquimalt Songhees Nation.
Yeah. So we just want to take a moment and just be with that, knowing that this land has been stewarded and loved and cared for and cultivated and nurtured and is now being shared with us because we are on their lands. We are on the unceded lands of these peoples and these nations. And so we are grateful for the opportunity to live and work and breathe and play and to commune with each other, with nature on these incredible, beautiful, precious lands. Heichka. Okay, so coming out of gratitude and reverence, knowing that there is some joy mixed in there, tell us one thing that is just, out of this cocooning thing that you were talking about a couple of weeks ago, how your calendar happens to be super full the way it is until July.
Yeah. Well, the cocooning thing is real and it's
Yeah.
important. And it hasn't actually stopped. But what happens for me during this cocooning stage, it's like the gestation period
Mm-hmm.
where I am sitting with my intentions. I am giving myself some gifts of quiet in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
But in that space comes some ideas, comes some noticings, desires, longings to look ahead into the spring, beyond the germination, but into the blossoming. And so part of the cocooning is actually listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's listening to what wants to be called forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking the space to go, what do I want to prioritize?
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions you asked in a previous episode,
Yeah.
you were talking about, like, what do you want your life to look like? I mean, if you get to choose what you give your attention to, what you prioritize, then I almost need to shut off, especially um, incoming news, offers, media. I subscribe to so many incredible spiritual guides,
Mm-hmm.
mentors, leaders, and I read about their offers and their programs and all these things that are coming up with the new year. And that's what I was having to turn off,
Mm-hmm.
or at
Mm-hmm.
least turn off a habit of paying attention and going, oh, is this for me?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to read every word this person wrote about their new program and lean into the feeling? And that it takes a lot of energy
Yep.
to lean into the offers, that everyone else is putting out in the world. And what it does is it takes away from my own creative wellspring, because then I move into some comparison games.
Yeah.
Well, any idea that I have might not be as well fully baked as this other offer. And so why should I bother when there's already something similar out there? But
Mm-hmm.
no one has the take that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all such individuals having this collective experience.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the cocoon for me, was paying less attention to what other people were doing and spend some time with myself. And from that, beautiful things emerged. And yeah, I'm like, yes, in March, yes, in April, yes, in
Yeah.
June, yes, to a whole 5-month leadership program from February to June.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And one of the things you asked me if there was one nugget that I wanted to talk about, I'd say that with deep appreciation and gratitude as we name the lands that we live on in the unceded territories, the stolen lands, the fact that I've been given an opportunity to give back to the Indigenous communities here in Victoria, and specifically with the executive director of the Aboriginal Coalition to End Homelessness.
Mm.
And they house a lot of women in transition who've been previously incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
Because of my work with the Realness Project in Colorado, going inside prisons to teach conscious communication and conflict transformation, I had a curriculum and something to offer when an opportunity to present, what can I offer to this community,
Mm-hmm.
and so a 2-day pilot project was birthed,
Mm-hmm.
and what a great opportunity it's going to be for me to co-facilitate, to bring this work, to facilitate this work with another partner who
Mm-hmm.
has 25 years experience working
Wow.
with the Indigenous communities, and she's going to open and close the circles.
Yeah. Wow. That I just I can already feel what an enriching and expansive and connecting experience that is going to be for all involved, not just the people attending or that you're, endeavoring to engage with, but because there is this reciprocal, circulative, energetic flow, this give and take that is constantly happening. What a beautiful opportunity for everyone to come together and be, I guess, opened up to a different version of how they've been showing up, until now. And with your guidance, your incredible guidance, which I actually wrote about you in my journal this morning. So appreciative to be in your company and your presence during, not necessarily challenging, but not necessarily easy conversations and experiences either. And just seeing how you navigate and how you pay attention and how you hold space for everybody involved, and how mindful you are of acknowledging what's happening, but also not staying stuck in it and, moving forward. I am so delighted at every single opportunity that I get to experience that with you, because I learn too. And I love watching you in action. So thank you, my friend, very, very much. And yeah, it just came out of my heart and through my fingers into my journal this morning. What a powerhouse, but what a loving, compassionate powerhouse you are.
Mm.
Surprise.
Yeah. Mm. I'm reminded in this moment that it is conscious work, that there is efforting in the allowing of
Mhm.
receiving,
Mhm.
and that it's something that not everyone has good practice at.
Mhm.
When I allow your words of affirmation, appreciation, admiration, when I allow them to land and I receive that, I expand in a view of what I'm capable of. And as I hold that for myself, what I find is that my capacity to hold it for others is equally expansive.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that part of what I get to do, or part of what I get to be in the world, is a mirror to reflect back the beauty of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with receiving. It
Yeah.
starts with allowing for myself so that I become full,
Yeah.
right? Allow my bucket to fill up by
Yeah.
receiving. So now I have more to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
thank you.
that, kind of ties in a little bit about the sort of what I was talking about in yesterday's Sunday talk at our gathering at Victoria True Center. And it didn't focus so much on the receiving, but sort of the part 3 of the foundation of New Thought, where we talk about what is spirit and what does it do and how does it work and kind of thing. And yesterday was very much about the fact that spirit expresses just constantly. There's no stopping it. There's no way to stop it. It's just constantly sort of like looking for an outlet to express itself and to fulfill itself. But there's also this thing about it giving of itself, it offering of itself constantly. And we are the ones who decide, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, how much of that allness that we are at our core that we're going to receive. And the more open we are, and the more receptive, and the more allowing we are, the more of our authenticity we get to experience, because that's how we fill ourselves up. So to me, it just feels like it's very, very much like what you were just talking about being able to really, really fill ourselves up by being, just knowing so completely who we are and trusting who we are, and that it's okay to show up as who we are, not apologizing, not making excuses, not playing small, which can happen. I mean, one of the things I also talked about was that it's a give and take, give and take, give and take, or like a tug of war or something constantly. And just because someone has been on the spiritual journey or the spiritual path for, a number of years or super intensively or whatever, doesn't mean that you get to a point where life is just easy and, coasting along all the time, because we're constantly growing, we're constantly evolving. And who we were, 5 minutes ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago is not who we're going to be in the next moment. And
Mm.
so to fill ourselves up, to really just continue to immerse ourselves and infuse ourselves in that amazing potentiality that we are. Oh, that's what I'm down for every moment of every day.
And I notice as I listen to you that the relational part of me wants to put you on the spot and ask, like personally, like speaking in I statements. Like, could you
Mhm.
give me an example of how that shows up in your life? You were talking about this kind of the push and pull.
Mm. Oh
And I'm
gosh.
I'm wondering if there's anything that you could offer to just really land that
Well,
teaching.
yeah, and you know what? And part of it came out in my talk yesterday as I referred to this incredible, like multi-award winning series on Disney Plus called The Bear, about the young chef who comes back from some super fancy pants, best restaurant in the world, Michelin stars, whatever, comes back to Chicago to take over his brother who just committed suicide, his brother's restaurant, which is just barely getting by. It's like a mainstay of the neighborhood, but it's barely getting by, and really is more akin to a greasy spoon than anything. And the whole thing, really, I mean, it got me because I worked in the food industry for about 20 years, and one of the biggest, push and pull and tug of war, and this was a long time before I went on to my spiritual journey in earnest, but the constant sort of, at peace and at war is not what I want to say, but like in turmoil, was when I had my business, when I had the pastry business, because it just felt like there was so much to do. There were so many people who wanted my attention. There was so much to pay attention to. And what I ended up choosing, like intentionally, but not necessarily consciously, I guess, or, sort of mixed in there, was I really was convinced, I convinced myself that my business needed me above everyone and everything else in my life. My husband, our young daughter, our friends, our community, whatever, that the business was the thing that required my full and utmost attention. And so because of that, I chose to do things like sleep on the kitchen floor because it would save me time, from going home and coming back, so that I could actually get more work done. It meant working there at all hours when everybody else, I would send everybody else home. It meant being a bit of a task driver with my staff, because my expectations were so incredibly high. But also sort of like in the show was like, but the creativity, the whole reason that this is happening is because there's this incredible, amazing creative expression with the artistry and chemistry of food, of chocolate, of indulging people in these incredible, amazing desserts, of making people happy, but then seeing them happy and working so hard on making them happy and their celebrations, but being absolutely miserable in my own life and, disconnected from my own family. So that's a big one. That's a really big one. I'm not there anymore, but little things like judgment coming into play, like, I can't believe someone said that, or I can't believe they behaved that way. And it's like, whoa, what did that, just coming back. And so that tug of war, that give and take, the gap narrows and narrows and narrows and narrows. And I mean, we've talked about judgment before on the podcast. And I think that this judgment, it's something that I don't know if we can ever get away from, because it just, we're weighing in on something every moment of every day. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. We're choosing to put our attention somewhere. We're choosing to, place our energy somewhere. And it could be about us. It could be about our, someone else. It could be about what's going on. But ultimately, there's always something that is forming, information wise. And so, am I looking at it from this perspective, or am I looking at it from who and what I truly am? So that's the constant back and forth for me, is what am I tuning into?
Mm.
Very long answer.
Yeah, no, thank you for the example. I remember being so inspired by your story about this TV show called The Bear that I was like, well, I don't have Disney Plus and I don't watch a lot of programming, but it sounds like a pretty epic tale of how to, let go of the attachment to the outcome, that you're supposed to do a certain thing when something else is actually what's happening right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something I say so often, which is around that suffering is caused by resisting what is.
Yeah.
And so, again, with this example, it's paying attention to what is and then taking ownership of what your needs are in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
much about New Thought, when you and I speak about it, comes down to personal responsibility.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And on that note, there's this quote here by Ernest Holmes. And I love collecting these little thoughtful note cards that are just these little perforated gems. And inside there's a quote. And this one says, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer.
Receive.
Receiving. Okay, now, and more than that, what this reminds me of, which also came through my head as you were finishing your story, is when you talked about judgment. It might not be about yourself, but it might be about something that's happening or about what someone else is doing. And um, and the mantra that has helped me navigate my own critical thinking is tell the best story.
Good
Tell
one.
the best story. So, what is the most generous story? I a dear friend in my life has done decades and decades of social work, and she's been a big fan of Brené Brown, and we were housemates back in the day when Brené Brown was coming on the scene and she was absorbing everything. And there was this phrase that Brené Brown had around making the most generous assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was her phrase, make the most
Mhm.
generous assumption. And
Yeah.
in my work, it came through as tell the best story. And so it's actually the story to tell is the one that makes the other person look good.
Hmm.
And rather than the story that like might set someone up to be seen as less than, so that you could be seen as more than.
Hmm.
But it's the version of the story where they look the best, making the generous assumption. So in this Ernest Holmes quote, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. Yeah. And
Yeah. Well,
what's
that and
happening for
just
you with that?
yeah, thank you. What comes to mind for me with what you just said before you repeated the quote is that, I mean, in New Thought, a lot of the times we will say something like, I am God, I am universe, I am, and then that's the thing, not a part of, not a little bit, not sometimes. I am God, but you know what? So are they. And so, no matter how much someone is pissing us off, no matter how challenging the situation is, to remember in like to tell the best story, for me, it means I got to look past all of the behavior, all of the perspective, all of the everything that is getting in the way of me seeing the love and the light and the goodness and the infinite potentiality in the other person who really I am a reflection of, and they are a reflection of me. So, yeah.
So it is.
And so it is. Okay. Well, that's almost a wrap then. Episode 10. What do we have coming up at VTC this week? We have another Radiate.
We do, and super excited to be welcoming Carrie and Gary, a dynamic singing duo. Um, I'd say folk. Um, I don't want to use the word rock, but melodic harmonies, beautiful singing and guitar playing. So they're gonna be our guest musicians.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some improv dancers. We've got a poet coming to read some of her writings, and yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Kicks off at 7 o'clock at 2815 Cedar Hill Road.
And that's on Friday, the 26th. And then before that, we actually have a brand new offering on Wednesday, the 24th. Elevate is still happening, but it's a slightly different variety of Elevate. It's going to be an intuitive art experience with the beloved and amazing artist and love ambassador, Joanne Huco, facilitating. And everybody who attends is going to be making these gorgeous tissue paper lanterns. And then there's something special that's going to happen with one lantern from each individual sometime down the road at a special ceremony. So yeah, a really, really amazing way to create art from the heart as we just come together to expand our mind and open our heart and activate our soul. So that is this Wednesday, January 24th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. And there's still a few spots available. So yeah.
Great.
All right. Okay.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Well,
let's put a link to that where this is broadcast.
yeah.
And
Oh,
I'll look forward to seeing you at that event.
yeah.
Until
Well,
next time.
until next time, thank you everyone for tuning in. If you'd like more information about VTC, the Victoria Truth Center, then please visit the what is it? VictoriaTruthCenter.org. Not the
That's right.
VictoriaTruthCenter.org. I am Reverend Lesia Kohut. I have been here with Love Ambassador and Brand Steward Sheri Hauser. This has been episode 10 of What's Up Spirit. We'll see you in a week's time. Bye for now.